Hello, welcome to Global Business. I am Imewari Oyemohai. Today on the program, we'll be looking at how to follow your money. Yes, how do you follow the money of Budget 2017? It's getting to the end of the year. It's December, and in fact, it's the third week of December, and we shall be looking at how far the 2017 budget has gone. How far has the government carried us through this budget? Just last week, the Nigerian Ministry of Finance said that they had released about 750 billion naira for capital projects. I mean, that's what they want to release between now and December 31, because at December 31, capital projects funds will stop. So now, what will 750 billion naira do in 3 weeks? Well, only the Buhari government can answer that question, or maybe the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, can definitely answer that question. Meanwhile, they say that they have spent about 1.2 trillion naira on capital projects. Now, we shall be going to see some of those capital projects on this program. We are at Connected Development, and Connected Development is a civil society group that looks at the budget and how it is implemented, not only for the federal government, but for the state governments. So you may want to take a listen today, sit back and relax and watch as Connected Development exposes some of the projects that are being done in your state. Yes, in your state. Now, it's only you that can tell us whether they are saying the truth or not, whether what they are presenting to us is real or not. Especially projects in the rural areas. We're talking to Celestina Obiekiea. She'll be telling us about what the Connected Development is doing and how they are following the money, how they are following the Budget 2017. And we'll be doing a lot more of these on the program because we want to make sure that we put our money where our mouth is. Okay, so also on this program, just last week, the Nigerian government had an investment forum in Lagos and Abuja for the green bonds. Of course, you'll be wanting to know what's the green bonds all about. We'll be giving you excerpts from that investment forum that took place in Abuja right here on Global Business. It's a packed program. You want to sit back, relax, take a listen, and of course, you need to jot notes and of course, make calls or send emails to us because we want to know whether what we have is real or not. You can send your emails to globalbusinessonait@gmail.com. That's globalbusinessonait@gmail.com. You can see it on your screen right there. We'll be back after this break.
The purpose of today's meeting is for the DMO and the Federal Ministry of Environment, together with our advisors, Chapel Hill, to meet with prospective investors in the green bond. As you know, the federal government is planning and has been talking about a green bond for some time. So we're at that stage where we are planning to actually issue a green bond for 10.69 billion naira. So usually when you're introducing a new product, you have to make sure the people who will buy it, or to use the technical language, who will invest in it, have some knowledge, some understanding of what the product is about. So this is a sensitization effort, which we have one today in Abuja. Tomorrow, we have another one in Lagos. And then next week, as you observe from the meeting this afternoon, we can then issue the securities. Okay, so government is going to use the money that is being raised for green bonds for specific projects. So 2 things about it. It is for green projects that have been classified as green, but it's also project tied. So it's not money going to government for general spending purposes. It is going to specific projects that have significant benefits for the environment. So we're happy to be partnering with the Federal Ministry of Environment to introduce this product. This offer this time is 10.6 billion naira. Okay, and that ends what was provided in the 2017 budget for borrowing. Next year there's another budget. We'll look at it again. So this is the first outing, and we'll continue from there. Okay, I don't think we should call it postponements. As you probably would have heard during the presentation, there are several stages you need to get through before you issue. So you heard that we were planning, we intend to. Okay, so that's a plan. Then there's a roadmap for implementation, several steps you have to go through before you can issue the bond. For instance, you heard that Moody's had to rate the fact that the projects qualify as green instruments. So it's a process that we had to go through. Now, definitely next week, we are issuing green bonds.
Basically, the green bonds, as I said earlier in the presentation, is Nigeria's own way of embracing this innovative option of financing climate action. In other words, we have committed to a national determined contribution globally, which we intend to implement nationally with the President appending his signature to it. And as a result of this, we have to take several projects from the different identified sectors of the NDC to implement them and see how much of these emission reduction contributions we promise we're going to do, we can do. And it needs financing. And basically, as I said earlier, the green bonds gives us that opportunity to, how will I say, put our mouth where our money is, put our money where our mouth is. And that's what the government is doing with this first issuance of the sovereign green bonds, putting in projects that it has within its budget, funding it to make it ready for investors to come in and continue from this point, which is part of what the NDC tends to look towards, facilitating partnership, public-private partnership on climate resilient projects.
Okay, so welcome to Talking Point, and this is where we talk business with the operations manager of Connected Development, also known as CODE. She is Celestina Obiekiea. Celestina Obiekiea, welcome to Global Business. Welcome to Talking Point.
Thank you very much for having me.
Many people know CODE,
yes,
and some don't know CODE. So for the sake of those who don't know CODE, let's tell us a bit about CODE.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Nigerians. CODE Connected Development is an NGO, a Nigerian-based NGO that works in the transparency and accountability space. A lot of the work that we do revolves around ensuring that communities are linked to capital projects that are supposed to come to their communities. And that's why our mission is empowering marginalized communities, because we believe that the major reason why you would have a community that has everything, hospitals, roads, and that which doesn't have, it's a question of access. Access to information, access to social infrastructure, access to even the government. So they don't have information to ask questions, the government doesn't go there, they don't have schools, they don't have hospitals, they don't have. So our work basically is around bridging that gap, providing that access for these rural or marginalized communities, as we would call them.
And you have been doing something for the 2017 budget,
yeah,
especially looking at projects in rural communities.
Yeah.
Now, tell us about how this project, which you call Follow the Money,
yeah,
you have followed the money, yeah, of 2017 budget.
So, in addition to a lot of other things that we do at Connected Development around transparency and accountability, our signature initiative, I think people even know Follow the Money more than they know CODE, because they hear Follow the Money all the time. Our signature initiative is Follow the Money. And what Follow the Money seeks to do is to track expenditure for capital projects in rural communities. So for us, the mandate is really about the rural communities where people ordinarily would not go to ask questions that people would ordinarily not ask. So we've been doing this for the past 5 years, and Follow the Money is going into a movement now of citizens who are actually asking questions, are involved, are informed, are interested in governance or how it affects them in their communities. So with Follow the Money, we track, advocate, we visualize this. So it's not just enough to track and know that 30 billion naira has been allocated to renovate a primary healthcare center in your community. We also put up pictures, we put up infographics, we visualize this, we link it up to what the ordinary citizens in those communities are actually saying or what they feel or how it will affect them. So for instance, 30 million naira might not look like so much, but then when you go into the community and you find out that things as little as beds are absent in those primary healthcare centers. And those are really the things that make life difficult, that make a difference, because you go into the community and you see that, oh, there's a building already, but there are no beds. Women are delivering on floors, on mats. The conditions in those primary healthcare centers are not sanitary.
Or they use candles.
Exactly. So you see, that 30 million naira, a institution like that 30 million naira goes a long way to providing these needed amenities. But if we were to just look at it and say, oh, just 30 million naira, you want to ask yourself, 30 million naira will not build a primary healthcare center. It won't make much difference. But in going to those communities, you're actually able to link these monies up to what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to make a difference in the lives of those communities. And that's what we're really interested in.
Now, many people are more interested, or they focus on the federal budgets and forget state and probably local government budgets. Do you focus on state and local government budgets?
Oh, absolutely. So for a very long time, correctly, like you have said correctly, a lot of the attention has been at the federal level. But we believe that we've been able to make some traction, some headway. There's been a lot of response with regards to federal. But when you look at it, there's just one federal government and we have 36 states. The numbers really are in the states and the local governments. And there's this huge amount of money that goes to the states and nobody's asking any questions about. So we have recently decided, especially in 2017, from 2017 going forward, to say, tone down a little bit on the attention of the federal government. That's not to say that we're leaving the federal government completely out of it, but put a bit more attention, a lot more attention on the states and the local government. So as part of the work that we do, it's now, we go more for the state budgets. And you also find out that there's still a lot of opacity in the state, at the state level and the local government. A lot of what they do is still shrouded in secrecy. The information is not even put out there. They're not even act or feel like, given from some of the responses that we get from the states, feel that they don't even think that they owe it to the citizens to answer these questions. Like the governance is not really, they don't see it as something that they are accountable to the people. So which also brings to utmost importance the fact that we need to really concentrate on those states, do some work.
Now, where is the problem? Is it really those in government who do not feel obliged to account to the people, or the people who do not even know that they should be accounted to? Okay,
so the way I always like to look at this thing is a carrot and stick thing. Chicken and the egg, which comes first? There would always be that conversation or that conundrum. But in the time that we're using to ask questions, who is what, who is accountable, who is to blame, who is more to blame, can we start actually fixing the issues? So can we do it together? The government needs to realize or start understanding that they need to be accountable. It's compulsory, because by being elected, a mandate has been placed on you. The people have placed their trust in you to say, okay, I know that you can carry our affairs. We know you can carry our affairs as it should. But you also need to give an account of your stewardship. Leadership, governance is a stewardship. It's not anybody's birthright. So people have placed their trust in you. Government officials need to start learning that they need to give account of their stewardship. At the same time, that is not to also say that the citizens don't have a part to play. There's a huge burden on the citizens. There's always a demand and supply. If you don't demand, there's a likelihood that the supply side will not even feel it's necessary. But why or how would the citizens even feel that they need to make a demand in the first place? They need to know what they're asking for. So that's why it's always interconnected. You cannot take one away from the other. So before I can know that 50 billion naira has been allocated to build a primary healthcare center in my community, I need to have that information. Government is a custodian of information. They need to put it in a space where I can even have access to it. It needs to be in public domain. We don't see a lot of that already. So most of the time, the question is the problem is you have to write letters, ask for meetings to get the information. But if all of this was in public domain and citizens have free, unfettered access to it in an open form, like we say, open data is everything, where it's accessible, usable, understandable. It's not just to put loads or junk of data, papers in PDF forms and nobody really understands what. Citizens need to be able to understand, digest, get information out of it and be able to use it for their own, whether it's asking questions or linking their communities up with things that should come to their communities. But at the end of the day, it's all connected.
Now, you've done states, you've done federal, and you've done local.
Local government, yes.
Which would you say is more opaque, or putting it in simple language, which government in terms of budgetary information would you say is so difficult to access their information?
So for now, I would say the state. It's pretty much difficult.
So it's easier to access local government information than the...
So you can't really take away the local government from the states. The way the system is structured now, the states are not completely autonomous. They don't do anything outside of the state. The states largely control the affairs of local governments, even down to budgets. So the local governments don't have any money of their own to spend. Everything they do comes from the states. So largely, it is still a state-level system of operation, which is part of the reasons why I think there's still this general clamor for a complete autonomy of a local government, because that's where the people are. They are the ones who are closest to the people. There should be some level of independence of affairs so that they can actually drive these agendas or development agendas in their specific communities. But away from that, there are still projects that are handled at the local government level. But because of, I think the local, I won't say the local government because of the mere fact that the local government is even closer to the people. Your local government chairman, your councillors, there are people who live in your community. So people have closer access to them, are able to see them easily, as opposed to probably a state governor or a commissioner who spends most of his time even in Abuja. Most of the time when you even want to have meetings or you want to see them or asking questions, or you're told, oh, he's not on state, he's not in the state right now, he's in Abuja at the moment attending one meeting. But the people or the leaders at the local government level are a lot closer to the people. But it's just that they don't have that independence. Most of the time, they can't even give you the information you require because they tell you, oh, the information is not even domiciled with us. Ours is just to come to the office most of the time. You know, when the state decides to sign it, most of the time what they get is for payment of salaries only. They're not completely in control of the projects that they execute at the local government level.
Your organization has gone to several states in the country and looked at both federal and state projects. You went to Mbele in Imo State, you went to Jesu in Gombe State, you went to Obomoide in Edo State.
Yes.
Now, I would like you to tell us how you have followed these projects and how much was allocated, how far has the work gone. Let's start. Okay,
so for a long time, a lot of our attention usually is at the federal level. We have budgets because our work really is around health. We focus on health, education, and environment. That's specifically for provision of water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities in communities. And a lot of that, for a long time, we're mostly concerned federal government, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Education through UBEC and SUBEB funds, the rural water sanitation projects, RUWASA, for water and wash. But in diversifying or taking our work to the states, we've had to pay a bit more attention to the states instead of focusing on the federal, which has led us to track several state budgets. Amongst them is the Gombe state that you mentioned, which is Jesu. We found an amount of money in the state budget, about 9 million naira.
So in Jesu?
In Jesu, yes.
In Gombe state,
yes.
Have 9 million
about
naira?
Approximately 9 million, 9.8 million naira, yes.
Yeah.
9.8 million naira.
For a project?
Yes, for the renovation of a primary healthcare center in Jesu community.
Jesu community.
Okay, so 9.8 million naira, but in getting to the communities, we found out that the primary healthcare center was completely run down. Nothing was happening, you can't even do anything.
But this was before the 9.8 million naira was allocated?
So after we had to find out, we found out initially the 9.8 million had been allocated before so we need to know about the money before we can go to the communities. If we don't know that there's any specific funds, there's really no point in carrying out community outreaches, except if we want to do an advocacy for that community. But in this case, it was not an advocacy. We actually saw in the state budget that there was a provision for 9.8 million naira to renovate, and it was specific.
to renovate the Jesu Primary Health Care Center.
Yes.
And you went there,
we went to the community.
And this is what you saw.
Yes. So in interacting with the system, we wrote letters, we had meetings, and part of what we do is, in addition to the town hall...
could you describe what you actually saw?
So a primary health care center that is run completely defunct, the roof's collapsing, the windows out, nothing even happens there. Okay, so it's almost closed down.
It's not functional.
It's not functional. It's not functional.
And 9.8 million naira has already been allocated.
Yes.
Did you know whether the money was released?
So that's part of what. So in interacting with the system, part of what we do is we organize town hall meetings. And this town hall meetings, what it seeks to do is to bring together all stakeholders that are relevant to that project. In the case of this, we invited, because it's a primary healthcare center, the State Ministry of Health, the members of the community. We try to get contractor details when we can. But for this particular, it was between this community and the government. Well, in interacting and getting the government, and this is one of the times when the government actually obliged and came to the for the town hall meeting, we found out that this is actually a project that is under the Sustainable Development Goals Implementation Office.
The SDGs.
Yes, SDGs. So this is actually an SDGs project.
So which brings it up to federal.
Up to federal, exactly. So, but this is not exactly, and this are part of the things we talk about, information being understandable. This was what
why was
it in the
9.8 million naira allocated to it in the state
budget?
In the state budget, when it is actually a federal project.
So those are
a federal project.
So those are questions that only the government can answer. And in most of the time when you ask these questions, you don't get appropriate answers, or you don't get the answers, the real answers to the questions.
So maybe the Gombe State governor or Gombe State government needs to come answer why 9.8 million naira was allocated for the Jesu Primary Health Care Center, when it should have been allocated, or it should have been a federal project, which has already been budgeted from the federal government, or probably they were helping the federal government
to implement. So those are
these are questions that the Gombe State government
needs to answer.
So tell us about other projects.
But as for the Gombe, that's not even the crux of the matter. So in getting the state government to actually attend town hall meeting and come and interact with the community, at the end of the day, the community was of the opinion that the way the state that primary healthcare center is, even if you're going to put 9.8 million naira into it, you probably would not get much out of it. So there's really no point in saying that you're putting so much money in renovating. The community opted to say, okay, we want a new facility, which the government has agreed.
I will agree with that, seeing the pictures.
Exactly. So which the government has agreed to. So now there's an agreement between the community and the SDGs Implementation Office to say, okay, we're going to build a new office for you, a new primary healthcare center, which is there's already conversations going on around it.
That agreement between the community and the state, or the SDG implementation?
The SDG Implementation Committee in the state.
In the state.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that's already on the ground, because they need to do, what do they call them? Carry out surveys to see how much it's going to cost or what the implication is going to be. So that's the stage that project is at now. But there's already a platform for the community to engage the government and for them to have back and forth and conversation. And the community is carried along the process, along the full process. So those are part of the things that we also aim to achieve in this. But it's not necessarily, it's not completely just about the money, but also to create that platform where the government is closer to the people are also closer to the government, and we can all...
And there is awareness in the
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So the community knows that they can ask questions. They know that they can write to their government, their state government. They can write to anybody and say, okay, we want to ask questions. Okay, so we teach them that even with the Freedom of Information Act, you as a citizen, it doesn't matter whether you're a market woman, a fish seller, a granite seller, or a bricklayer, or a carpenter, you have a right as a citizen to actually write, to ask your government what they're doing with your money.
This conversation is certainly not over. In fact, we'll have to continue with Celestina next week on the program. It's a whole new dimension to talking budgeting, especially tracking budgets. So we'll continue with Celestina next week on the program on Talking Point. Okay, so we've had Celestina Obiekiea on the program today, and you've listened to all she has to say. All you need to do right now is send to globalbusinessonait@gmail.com and let us know whether what we have said on this program is real or not. We really need you to do that. It's time we begin to hold the government accountable for what they do. The Nigerian government, you begin to hold the Nigerian government accountable for whatever monies they say they have spent. And whatever monies they say they have spent is your money actually. So follow the money. I'm Imewori Uhiamohai. It's always nice doing business with you. Let's do it again next week. And have a beautiful holiday season.